actually using GPS data as opposed to Wi-Fi systems. It's an alternative and not necessarily replacement here. We've used GPS for about 4 years now, and we've now started combining it with machine learning and artificial intelligence to actually calculate footfall for about 1,980 town centres across the UK on a weekly and monthly basis. How we've been able to achieve that is we have a panel or a sample of 1.6 million unique phones. They're actually providing 1 billion GPS location data points every month. And we are able to capture them from 40 plus unique GDPR compliant apps. And those apps range from very small photography apps right through to train booking or car navigation. But the crucial thing is that we only take data that gives us 30 GPS points a day, and that enables us to actually understand real behavior patterns and start to apply the machine learning and artificial intelligence to actually extrapolate up to get true footfall volumes and behavior types within town centres. So what are the benefits then of this approach compared to maybe Wi-Fi or traditional footfall cameras? One of the things which is an immediate is there is no hardware required. So we do currently have footfall data for just under 100 town centres across Wales. We can measure across everywhere. There's no restrictions. You don't need to focus on a particular street, so we can actually include car parks, we can include green spaces, and which I'll show you in a demo in a short while, we can actually include places that are private, such as shopping centres or outlet parks, retail parks, or even supermarkets. We track visitors then not just at street level, but actually at core category levels. So we can get down to businesses, individual businesses. And one of the big demands we always have is how people use a town centre, independents versus national businesses, for example. We can understand why they use that town centre. An example here, there's 35% of all visits revolve a grocery shop. And then we can also, which is one of the big things in driving footfall, we can really understand where people are coming from. We can get that down to postcode level, and we have examples of town centres where they actually locate their social media marketing against the postcode data we're able to provide to them. And once again, I'll show you that in a short demo. And then finally, it's easy to be able to compare your neighbouring towns, any town in Wales, or literally any town in the UK using these data sets. So where we currently are, we have 103 towns. This is showing on the map where we're actually capturing or calculating data. There is no restriction. We could add another 100 places onto that map if we wished. So we can literally measure footfall wherever people go. And so I'm just going to come out of this screen now and actually move over to the dashboard itself. So what we have here then is we bring all this data together, and there's been a few comments about how to use the data. So we've tried to work really hard on use cases for actual GPS behavior and footfall data. This is the map. You can select any location and you just add them into your tray over here. I've actually added Swansea, Bridgend and Cardiff into my tray. So all my analytics now will actually be based around those 3 locations. But if I wanted to add in Aberystwyth, I can do that very easily. I'll just click on there, add it in, and it will appear in my tray. The next part then is the analytics itself, which is obviously the crucial value of these platforms. So what we're able to do is actually bring in real calculated footfall. These are footfall volumes. Without going into the detail of how it's done, they are extrapolated. So it's not simply saying there's 700 people in the town centre, we're actually bringing it up into real footfall volume sizes. This is monthly. So because we've got these 3 locations here, we can compare across the 3. Equally though, we can start to do some trend analysis. We're starting back at the middle of lockdown here, and you can see the growth. And on this one, you can actually see the growth coming through, which is Cardiff, 403% growth from May, whereas if we go into Swansea, it's 186. So actually we can clearly see city centre growth has dramatically outstripped Swansea's growth within this. And you can choose any location you wish to compare against. We also then have trend on week and see what's been happening. So let's just go into the trend line. Once again, we can see that all places from May, or from June in this one, have been growing month on month. And you just highlight over the top and see how things are going week on week as we go through lockdown. Another interesting part is this data set here. So this is actually starting to bring some where people come from. So we are able to actually identify which postcode location they come from. And also, because we've chosen Swansea, Bridgend and Cardiff, we can see what percentage of that postcode area, SA1 here, are actually using each town centre. Really crucial information for marketing events, actually recruiting new businesses into town, and also being able to track your own success at converting people to come into the town centre. If we just go back over to here, and I'm just going to come out of that and go into maps, it's much easier to understand then where people are coming from. So here we have Swansea, Bridgend and Cardiff. I just take off Bridgend and Cardiff. It's really interesting. That is Swansea's top 10 postcode catchment. All the percentage conversions, the volumes of visitors coming, and the actual population for each postcode. When we add on Bridgend, now this is top 10, I might well add, we do have all the data for every single postcode we've seen coming into Swansea. And the new feature that we're adding will be what we're calling tourism. But let's just add Bridgend on. You see here, there is no crossover of the top 10 postcodes between the two places. In postcode top 10s, they are mutually exclusive. And that's really important, say for Bridgend or Swansea, when attracting new businesses in. If you want to attract this audience, you need to be in Swansea. If you're attracting these postcodes, you need to be in Bridgend. And really bizarrely, and this was completely random, when we looked at Cardiff's top 10, they also didn't overlap. There is a caveat with this. This is only the top 10. A place like Cardiff actually, during August, had people from over 500 postcodes in the city centre. We do have all of that data, and we will be adding it into these dashboards to help people. If we go across into analytics again, let's just then start to look at some of the people and where this can add value to you as a business. So here we can see by time of day. Now, one of the things many town centres want to really look at is their evening economy. Let's just take out Bridgend and just look at Swansea and Cardiff. It's quite interesting how Cardiff as a city centre, and this is August data 20, had 20,000 unique visits at the time of 7 o'clock. But Swansea wasn't that far behind. Now, the footfall for Cardiff is much greater than Swansea. If we go back into here, we can see here that actual Cardiff's footfall was 711,000 and Swansea's is 575. That's just one example of way of looking at this and going, actually, Swansea has a fantastic even economy, even during lockdown. And it's something that actually the town centre should really shout about. Back into visitors, for independent businesses or even national businesses, once again, you can, let's just focus on Swansea. That is the portfolio of when people are coming through, really busy right up to 1 o'clock. So yeah, staffing we need there. And obviously we would then be able to do the same for days. At the moment, during August, pretty similar day profiles. But then down here, this is a bit about marketing again. You can see here there's a drop down. I can go in and just look at the volume of brief visitors. So on this one, we've got about 15,685 visits, which are brief, 6 to 12 minutes. What you should be able to do then is start to work out campaigns and interventions to get those people, that volume of visitors, to stay longer. You can track that very easily by simply changing your time frame here. So you can easily and quickly identify whether your activities to make people stay longer are actually working. So that's a bit about people. Let's just move on into streets. So what we've got going on this part of this is actually Swansea Town Centre. Now, you've seen a few other heat maps going on. What we're able to do here, though, is actually start to look at the heat and actually create it into real footfall volumes. So park tour retail park, if I just click on it, it will highlight it. That is the busiest part of Swansea. If I then just go, another advantage here is that we've actually got Tesco. We can actually highlight Tesco very easily and just put the shape around it. And I've got Sainsbury's. Quite often, those types of locations are excluded from the normal ways of counting footfall because they won't allow you on their premises. And finally, just highlighting, we've got the shopping centre as well. So we've actually got the 4 core areas of where people are actually visiting. And then when we come to the 5th one, it's actually a street within the city centre. It's Wynn Street. Now, Wynn Street, if I just go into July here and look at the data, where is Wynn Street? It's down at 8th, all the way down there, 19,000. Let's just go back into August and look at Wynn Street again. 47,594. Wow, what's going on there? Well, I can tell you what's going on there, because if I go into local provision, I can actually see down here all of the businesses that are actually in Swansea. And if I go into Wynn Street, I can show you those are the businesses on Wynn Street. That's what type they are. They're all food establishments. What happened in August? We had Help Out to Eat Out. So we can clearly prove that actually an activity has not only driven footfall at the total town level, but we can very quickly go in and identify by street what an impact has been. Now, if you were then wanting to say, well, that's quite interesting. Well, I wonder how that compared to Bridgend. We just changed Bridgend, and there we go. We have all of the same data for that town centre, all of their streets ranked on the heat map. And once again, we can go back in history and pull that out. And then finally, on here, this is about attracting businesses in. We can go in and look at the national provision for Swansea and say, right, okay, this is all the Swansea businesses. Well, I wonder how we just compare to Bridgend. Let's have a look at that. So now we've got Bridgend's data in. If we just scroll across, we can start to identify our strengths versus other locations. So this is Bridgend's and this is Swansea. So Swansea has a stronger offering in national clothing brands. Why wouldn't Swansea want to be shouting about that to get more people to come into Swansea regarding clothing? If we then added into Cardiff, we would then be able to go, well, actually, now Cardiff's added in, sorry, let's move over here, they've got 61. So to be honest, there's not much point trying to compete for Cardiff Town Centre audience. If you remember, we know where the Cardiff Town Centre audience is because we've got the catchment map, and we've also got what Cardiff can offer. Swansea's not going to be able to be as successful, but we do know Swansea has a fantastic dining. So maybe you would start your first campaign around dining. Then, if you're actually thinking about bringing in new businesses, we can look here and say, well, okay, let's just type in clothing. These are all the national brands available. And let's say, just go down here and say, pick on Burton's Menswear. They're in 3 locations in both of the cities. For a certain town, Burton's Menswear may be considering of closing. You now have all the evidence to prove to them that they shouldn't close maybe the Bridgend store. Equally so, we could go down to Fat Face and say, well, you're only in Cardiff. Why aren't you coming to Swansea or Bridgend? The audiences are there and they're not shared because we've got the evidence to prove that on the maps. And then finally on here, if we just go back over to local provision, you can start to see what the splits are there. And one of the things that we are starting to add, and I think we've got it in national provision already. If I scroll down, is actually what are the volumes by category? Why are people using Swansea? And if I just scroll across, you'll be able to see 14,000 visits are within the category of grocery, Tesco and Sainsbury's. Actually, we probably already knew that because we'd looked at the heat map, but you can start to identify very easily why people are using your location. And once again, do interventions to start targeting different categories, as well as using your street data just to combine the use of the town centre with actually the location. So I was being very positive on this map, showing you where the heat spots were. Well, let's look at the negatives. Park Street, Picton Lane, Singleton Street. I can find out what businesses are on there by looking at local provision. I can understand the category visits to the town centre, and I can also very quickly understand where people are not going. So hopefully that gives you a feel for what you can really do with GPS data now. And just to wrap up on that, just go back to the map and saying, currently, every dot on this map is actually having footfall behavior data calculated for it every single minute of the day. And there is no constraint. So if you are a local authority, you can add in all of your towns that you cover, add them onto the map, and you can actually start to pull in the behavior data.